Well, hi there folks, this is your host ID Jester. Thanks for checking out my video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you find this video helpful. As you can see, we've been busy playing Tigers on the Hunt with the brand new release of Kursk, the first DLC, and we had a nice live stream on Thursday and Friday, and we got to play the Slaughter of Prohorva. And now what I wanted to do was actually talk about campaign scenario number 1, which is Psel River. I haven't had a chance to actually play that scenario yet because obviously we're in the middle of a campaign scenario number 2 and it's massive and huge and going to take us a little while to get through that. But I have watched some videos on some players playing the Psel River, and I think there are some tips and hints that I'm going to try to show you guys that might help you if you're going to be setting up your defenses as the Russian player. So this video is going to deal with the setup for the Russian player in playing campaign scenario number 1. So we have basically a couple screenshots here of the actual scenario here. The Germans are going to be starting over here on this side of the map, over on this area, and their object is to get across the bridge and create a breachhead for all their units to come flooding in. And once they do that, the Russian player is really going to be in trouble. So your job as a Russian player is to keep them on their side of the bridge as long as possible and secure as much damage as possible. So the first thing you have to understand about this scenario, and any scenario in general when we're talking about Tigers and Hunts, when we're talking about hills specifically, there are some fundamental rules that I think players do not understand correctly about the way hills work. So in this scenario, there are many different levels of terrain. This dark green, which is represented by this kind of this color here, that is level 0. If you look at the kind of, I don't know, whatever color this is, it's kind of the mid-tone green, that is level 1. If you look at the lighter color, oops, that was a bad draw there. Let's try that again. All of this territory here is going to be level 2. And then way back here, the very light green on the very edge, that is level 3 terrain. Anytime you're dealing with a hill situation, there are several things that you need to remember and always remember, and this goes with any game, not just Tigers on the Hunt. We're going to create a new game here, or a new map. We won't save that one. Alright, so our layout is like this, and then we have a level 1 hill, and then we have a level 2 hill, and then we got a level 3 hill. So basically, here's the bridge coming across over here, and this is all levels 0 terrain over here. So the fundamental rule on hills is very simple. Unless you are standing at the edge of the hill, you cannot see down below you. So if I have a little dude here and he's trying to spot units, he's got to be at the edge of the hill to be able to see out and about, as you can see. If you take your unit and not position it on the edge of the hill, say this unit here, put a gun in his hand here, here's a gun, there we go. There we go. When he goes to look, he's not going to be able to see anything because his vision is blocked by the terrain in front of him. I call this the Grand Canyon effect, which means, I'll create another new one, don't save. You can't actually see the Grand Canyon until you walk up on the edge of it. If this is me standing here when I'm trying to look, I'm going to try and spot the Grand Canyon. I can't actually see the Grand Canyon until I get up to the very edge of the Grand Canyon. So once I'm there, then I can see down into the Grand Canyon. So remember, the only time you can actually ever see down into an area is when you are on the very edge of that terrain. If you're not on the very edge, you will not be able to see anything. You love my drawings, don't you? They're awesome. All right, so if we go back to our scenario here. Let's take a look at this. We're going to open this with paint. Here we go. All right, so what all that means is, let's slide this over a little bit here. This is all this on red here is all level 0. These are all the same level terrain, which means everybody can spot everybody else that is on the same color of terrain. If you have a unit that is positioned right here, it is not on the edge of the hill. So when he tries to see something, he's going to be blocked by the spot in front of him. So only those units are going to be on the very edge of the terrain of the hill, and I'm going to put circles there. Oops, trying to put circles there, are going to be able to see down into the valley below. That goes with level 2 hill as well. Same thing. Units here, and here, and here, and here, here. All of the edge hexes can see down into the valley below. Like that. Units that are positioned back here, over, oops, put X's there. Here, one space back, doesn't matter how many spaces back. I could have one way back here. Not going to matter. You cannot see anything except for the same level terrain that you are at. So, this guy way back here wants to shoot out here, can't do it. Not going to happen. You have to be at the edge of the hill to be able to see down in it. Now, there's one specific thing that can screw you up with that, and I'm going to show you that in another one of my awesome diagrams. Don't save. So let's go back to black. That's good. All right, so we have this. We have our nice little hill, and we have our dude, right? We have our dude, and he's at the edge of the hill. And he can see down into the valley below now. Hey, look at that. I'm at the edge of the hill. I can see down in the valley. Problem is going to be if there's any other terrain that's equal to your height level, you will not be able to see down into it. So for example, if we have a bunch of trees here that are also considered level 1 because they are at the same height as the hill, what's going to happen to our line of sight? Again, boink, it's going to be deflected away so that you will not be able to see down beyond where the trees are. I can see down here just fine, and I can see into the trees just fine. I can't see beyond the trees because they are at the same level I am at. Same thing goes for, let's create another new one, don't save. If we have a situation like this, I'm now at level 2, and I have my dudes up here at the top, and we're on the edge of the hill. Again, this is level 2, this is level 1, this is level 0. So my guy can see down into here, you can see down into here, no problems whatsoever, right? The problem is going to arise when you have something like, you have a level 1 hill, and then you have the same situation where you have a bunch of trees that are positioned out there. So this is a level 1 hill, this is a level 1 obstacle, so again, their height is the same as our height. So to actually see over these trees, we would need to go up to level 3, go up there, because then we are higher than 1 plus 1 is 2. We would be at level 3, so we would be able to see over them once again if our dude was way up here, like this. Now everything's not into scale here, but you can see we have line of sight down this way. So hills are not that complicated once you understand the basic principles of them and why you can or cannot shoot down below a hill. So let's close that out and bring back up our situations here. So with everything we've learned so far, there are certain positions on this map that are strategically advantageous for the Russian player for several reasons, and there are some positions that are absolutely horrible for the Russian player because they do not give them line of sight. So, bad areas we will mark in red. So obviously anything that's not on the edge of the hill. So all of these hexes here are not on the edge of the hill. These are all, take all of that, bad, 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 bad spots. All of this, again, bad spots. Oops, that one is actually a good spot because it's at the edge of the hill. Interesting though, if you have a unit, let's just say I'm going to put out a blue unit here. We have a blue unit right here. When he tries to look, he can actually see down here just fine because the hex side he crosses goes down. When he tries to look over this way, though, it is going to boink, bounce up and away because he's not at the edge of the hill this way. So you have to worry about both of those situations. Let's not save that again. All right, so let's talk about some the really good positions that the German player should be looking at for this setup for this scenario. All right, if we look at the top part here, we'll look at the bottom part here in a minute. Things of really good strength are these locations right here. Again, he don't have to be at the edge of the hill because he's at the bottom. This is all level 0, so all this level 0 is all the same height, so it doesn't matter how far back he is. These have trenches in them, which means if your units break, they can stay in those hexes and not have to run away because they're not out in the open. They give you terrain bonuses for yourselves. So these units are extremely valuable for your units. You should try to maximize these trench hexes. They also have a nice line of sight across anybody that's trying to come out in the open. And obviously, once you reach into a hex, you can't go on beyond that because we're not able to see over that hex. So this here is going to be blocked, and then we're going to be able to see into that one. We're going to be able to see into this one. We will not know what's in this hex at all because this is going to block our line of sight from it. So this is kind of important because of what we're going to talk about in a minute. This hex actually, I think, has line of sight right through those buildings there, so we can actually see this one here. But if you don't have anybody in this trench here, this unit in this spot would be blocked, and I believe this one may or may not be blocked. So the other very important hex is going to be this one right here. This is on a level 2 hex, or level 2 hill, but it is on the edge, so it can see down in the valley below. And it's also a building hex, so very strong position. So all of these are very, very strong positions. Let's bring up the bottom, or the midsection here, and take a look at the midsection. All right, so this is kind of a screenshot a little bit lower here. Let's take a look at what we should look at for this kind of what I'm calling the mid, because there's some buildings and stuff below that ground. If we look at this hex back here, right here, is that a good hex or is that a bad hex? Well, that is a good hex because it's actually, I believe, it looks like it's on the level 3 hill. I'm going to have to check that. If that's a level 3, it looks like it's white. If it's the same as this one here, that might be a good position, but I'm going to have to, because see, it looks like there's some white on the edge here. So I think this is on the edge of the hill, a level 3, which might be an actual good position for it. All right, so let's look at down here. The biggest problem we're going to have with these Germans coming across the bridge, we have some nice attacks coming from this direction and from up here. So we have to obviously maximize because the Germans outnumber us severely, and they have better and more units. So we have to really do the best we can with as little as we have. So the biggest problem we have is this hex right here. This hex is a wood hex. Wood hexes are going to block our line of sight. So any units in this hex right here that are trying to look down the bridge are going to be blocked. Cannot see down the bridge. Now we can see around it, like over here, but this is kind of a weak position to put your units until they start breaking through and maybe they come over into this general area up and over in this way. Then we'll have some line of sight. We'll have to shoot through some brush and stuff. You can shoot through brush. You cannot shoot through woods. Woods will block line of sight. So this is a horrible hex to position any units that are valuable and can damage the enemy units. This hex is not much better, but we can get around some of the woods and we can shoot kind of over in this quadrant over on this side. This hex over here is just as bad because you can only shoot over here at these buildings here because of this woods being blocked. So these hex locations are pretty weak for your defenses because of this one woods that happens to be in the way. So obviously, let's don't save that. Let's go ahead and, I don't want to bring it up with that. I want to bring it up with this. Sorry about that. There we go. So I would try to not position too many units in these locations right here. They're just not very strong. We're talking about other strong hexes. This one here is a pretty strong hex because, again, you have a clear line of sight across. What you're trying to do is hurt the Germans when they're out in the open right here, especially if you can get a backlog of units on the bridge, do some damage on there. You can see, whoops, I can't draw very straight with this, but you can see we have clear line of sight. The only thing we have to worry about is this orchard. We're going to take a little penalty to hit, but still pretty strong hex. Obviously, when we're talking about weak, terrible setup hexes, this is another one, and this is another one. Why are these horrible hexes? Well, because their line of sight's blocked by these buildings right in front. So what you want to do with this location, we're going to talk about here in just a second. But first, over here, as you can see, we have very good line of sight here. We got no hindrances, no terrain, brush or orchards we have to shoot through. So this hex right here is very strong. And this hex is not bad either, other than you have to wait till they get off the edge of the map. Once they get out into this one hex away from the edge of the map, it's very strong hex as well. We're going to talk about what you should be doing in this middle tier here in just a second here. Let me get rid of all of that junk. Open with, there we go. All right, so what you should be trying to be doing with these hexes, because they are just horrible for line of sight. Again, you do have some nice line of sight, maybe like that, and a little bit over this way. This one is just bad altogether because it's going to be blocked just about everywhere you try to shoot. So what you want to do with this is you want to have what I want to call the rolling reinforcements. So you're going to have units in here and you're going to have units in here. And when they get broken, what you're going to do is you're going to route them back here, and you're going to do the same thing with these guys here. And then the units that are in here and here, you're going to move them up. What you want to do is you want to move them here in the movement phase, and then you want to advance them up. Same thing here. When these units break, you want to move them back. These units, you're going to move in the movement phase to here, and then in the advance phase, you're going to move them here. Don't move them all the way up in the movement phase, because that'll just give them lots of targets to shoot at. So you don't want to do that. So what you want to do is you want to have a rolling thing. Keep your leaders. I can't type very well on this. leaders. You want to keep your leaders in these back hexes here. You want to keep your leaders back here because you want the guys falling back to be hit by your leaders. You don't want your leaders up front because if your leaders break, then they're not going to be able to rally your guys. So position your leaders in the back hexes. When these units break up front, you're going to roll them back, roll these guys back, and even these guys you could roll back into one of these two hexes. When these units break and they roll back, there'll be a leader there ready to rally them. And then during your next movement phase, you're going to move them up to this one spot here, or one spot here, or one spot here. And then in the advance phase, you're going to advance them forward. There's no sense in moving units. Let me bring this up again. I know I got lots of text going on, so it's sometimes a little, I just want to make sure this is clear. I know if you got units in here, you're like, oh, I got 3 German units here. I got 3 German units here. I got 2 more here. There's already 1 across. There's 2 more here. I got to get guys up here to shoot at them. No, no, no. Don't think of that. Okay? You got your units up here. You bring them here and bring them here during the movement phase. Then all these units are going to shoot at you first. They're sitting targets. And then if they break, what are you doing? Well, you got to route them back, and then you're not going to have anybody here. So during the movement phase, assault move into this spot here, assault move into this spot here, assault move into this spot here, and then in the advance phase, advance them up. That forces the enemy into several things. The German player has to move. They have to continue moving to get units across. So if they're prep firing to shoot at your guys, then they're not moving. And if they're not moving, they're just backlogging the bridge here, more and more units trying to get across. I can't, come on guys, and sooner or later it's just going to back up farther and farther and farther. So you want to just back them up. Don't worry about trying to break every single one that comes across. What you want to do is you want to have your units available. So when you move these guys up, when these guys break, when these guys in these hexes here and this hex here breaks, you're going to route them back here. You're going to route this guy back here. And then during your next movement phase, you're going to move them here. The next advance phase, you're going to move them here. And now the German player's got to decide: is he going, if he's got 3 guys here and 3 guys here, he's got to decide: am I going to prep fire at this guy, or am I going to try and move out of there? If he prep fires, then he's sitting targets for all of your other units that have line of sight to him, just sitting there waiting for them to be out in the open. And that's exactly what you want. So remember, be at the edge of the hill. If you want to see down below, so this is one side of the hill. This is the second side of the hill, like that, right? So you want to be on those edges like that. So this is a good spot here. Again, these are all at level 0, so it doesn't matter how far back they are. If you got a level 0 and this is level 0, you can see forever. Or well, in this case, it's 14 hexes. Here's your other, and I think this kind of goes like this, something like that. I think this is at actually a good setup hex. I'll have to double check that. So that's kind of your tutorial on what you should be doing as the Russian player defensively to keep the Germans from advancing as fast as they can. Use this center part as a rotating units. Broken units go to the back, fresh units to the front. Same thing over here. I would recommend you have a leader back here so that when this unit breaks, or this unit breaks, or this unit breaks, they can all route to that spot, and then you can rally them. They're probably not going to be able to target this hex as easily. And again, I'm going to bring this back up. Pate, here we go. The reason I would say this hex is, number one, it's adjacent to all these other ones, right? So putting your units into this hex, it's going to be a lot easier. Second thing is, the line of sight to that hex is going to be a little bit more difficult. So if they got units here, they're not going to be able to shoot into that hex because they're going to have to hit this hex first. So I would definitely position a leader in this hex right here. So that way, any units that break in this hex and in this hex, you can route them in there, hopefully rally them. And then I would do the same thing maybe with this hex that we're doing over here, in that whatever units here, I would route them and then move this unit right back up. And so when the enemies are coming across, they're going to see this hex as the biggest threat. So they're going to try and target this hex and not shoot at all your broken units. They shoot at your broken units, they're going to re-break and they're going to be hard to get back. So you want to roll in. You want to bring your units from here, roll them back into here once this unit breaks, so that when the Germans are coming across, he sees units in there. He knows that this is a very dangerous hex. He's not taking pot shots at your broken units over here. So just some words of wisdom and strategy for this scenario. I think, like I said, I haven't tried it myself to see exactly how rough it is for the Russians. I've watched some videos, and it's been kind of, just, oops, that's not what I meant to do. Go away. But it looks like there is definitely some need for some tips and overviews on the best way to handle this scenario. Obviously, the German player is going to have a ton of units. They got to come across this bridge, so you're going to be outnumbered probably 4, 5 to 1, 6 to 1, who knows. But the best thing you can do is keep your units alive, make them prep fire, so they're not moving. When they're not moving, they're not going anywhere. If they break all your units, you're going to have really good leader here to rally these guys, right? You're going to have a couple leaders here, and you're going to have a leader here. That's going to be your rally, and probably a leader in here. So good leaders here, good leaders here. And even, we haven't really talked about this hex, because this hex is going to be targeted by everybody and their brother. So I wouldn't put too much in here that's valuable. I'd put some squads in here, but the German player obviously is going to want to take out this hex number 1 over just about any other hex. So keep your units, put a couple in there, but don't overload that hex, because if they break, they got nowhere to go. If they start moving out in the open like this, you might be able to, you might take some hits. I don't know if that actually has line of sight because of the woods, but over here, that definitely has line of sight. So I wouldn't put too many important in here. I would classify this as not a good hex, but it's not a bad hex either. It's kind of in between. The problem with this hex is, like I said, it's a target hex. People are going to want, your enemy is going to want to remove what's in that hex. And if they are broken and they're you can't rally them, I would put a leader in there and maybe a couple squads just to keep them honest, keep them back. Check out the range on your squads too. If your squads only have a range of 2, they're only going to be able to shoot out to right here. So you're going to have to wait for them to get across, which means, are you going to sit there and take 2 turns worth of attacks? Your units aren't going to last through 2 rounds of attacks. So there's no sense in putting squads in there if they're just going to get broken. I'd rather put the squads in somewhere else where they're going to be more valuable, better hexes. These hexes are much better. This hex is much better. This hex is much better. So, and I have to find out about this hex over there. But that's probably it. If you can cause a bottleneck here on the bridge, defensive fire when they're moving, wait until they get on the bridge so that anybody else that comes out is going to take that residual firepower on the bridge. And if you can start breaking units on the bridge, it's going to prevent them from bringing units across because they'll overstack the hexes, and all kinds of good things can happen. So I look forward to playing this scenario, but I just thought I would share some thoughts and some tips on what I see that players are not understanding and just my general overview on the scenario defensively for the Russian player. Hopefully, you guys find this helpful, and if you do, give it a like, thumbs up, comment, suggestion, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.